This podcast is brought to you by Arete Media.
Welcome to the AI Analysis Podcast. It's Christmas time, everybody.
Yes, it is. But before we jump into our analysis today, please make sure to take a moment and cast your votes for the 2025 Artie Awards. The link is in the description.
So today we are jumping head first into a really high-stakes cultural argument.
Mm-hmm.
We've drawn it entirely from this incredibly passionate, and I mean highly detailed, conversation that took place on the Toon Talk 2.0 YouTube channel.
Right. And the big question, the one that comes up every single year, is what definitively makes a movie a Christmas movie?
Exactly. It's the question that haunts every family gathering. And our mission today is really to arm you, the listener, with a framework to finally win that argument.
Well, and that's the thing that was so great about the source material. The hosts, Jake and Virus, they didn't just, shout their favorite films at each other. They actually tried to build an objective framework.
They tried to build a set of rules,
Yeah.
a system.
Yeah, a system that could, at least in theory, settle the argument for good, which is, a pretty ambitious goal.
It's incredibly ambitious. And, I mean, let's be honest, trying to create objective rules for something as subjective as a holiday movie is. It's almost doomed to fail, right?
Or at least doomed to get very, very complicated very fast.
But that's where we get the good stuff. The goal for you is to listen to how they built this framework, where it broke, and how they had to rebuild it. So the next time your uncle claims Rambo is a holiday classic,
Which is a real thing we're going to get into.
you'll have this devastatingly structured counter-argument ready to go. You're not just getting a list today, you're getting the architecture of the argument itself.
It's all about plot necessity, not just tradition. And where else could we possibly start but with the one movie at the center of it all?
The Die Hard litmus test. It is the absolute nexus of all modern Christmas movie debates.
It really is. It's the gatekeeper. And the hosts in our source, they just dive right in. Virus, who's sort of the champion for the action movie side of this, he comes out swinging.
What's his opening salvo?
Not only is the first Die Hard a Christmas movie, but Die Hard 2. Die Harder is, and I quote, absolutely a Christmas movie as well. He's doubling down.
That's a bold move, especially because, there's a pretty big contradiction right at the top, isn't there, with Bruce Willis himself.
Oh, yeah. He addresses it immediately. He acknowledges that years ago, Bruce Willis reportedly said he didn't think it was a Christmas movie.
So how does he get around that? The main actor, John McClane himself, disagrees.
With just masterful dismissal. He just says, Bruce Willis forgot about it.
He forgot about it.
Yeah. And, that little moment perfectly sums up the whole debate, doesn't it? Personal tradition and what the culture decides a movie is that completely overrides what the creator might have intended.
It's out of their hands now. It belongs to the people who watch it every December 24th.
Exactly. So Virus's initial justification is, the simple one. It's the setting. It happens on Christmas Eve.
And he brings up the iconic line, right?
Of course. The one line that probably cemented its status more than anything else. Ho, 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 now I have a machine gun.
Right. And for a lot of people, that's it. Case closed. Christmas Eve setting, a darkly ironic Christmas quote. Done.
But that's just way too loose, isn't it? If that's all it takes, then any movie that just happens to be set in late December qualifies.
Yeah, you open the door to complete chaos. Any gritty crime thriller where a character mentions it's Christmas Eve is suddenly in the running. It's not enough.
And that's the tension that forces Jake's hand. He realizes they can't just talk about festive presents, they have to talk about narrative necessity.
Okay, so this is where he tries to be the structuralist. He tries to formalize the whole thing. Let's break down this first attempt.
This is workshop session 1. And it's so important because you see the flaws almost immediately.
So Jake proposes 3 universal rules. And to qualify, a movie has to meet 2 out of the 3.
A simple checklist seems reasonable at first.
Okay, so rule 1 is about timing and environment. Pretty straightforward. Christmas Day or the Christmas season has to occur in the movie.
That covers Die Hard's setting. Check.
Rule 2 gets a little more specific. Santa or Jesus must be referenced. And he says even a simple line of dialogue counts. It doesn't have to be a major plot point.
Okay, so a minor mention is enough.
And then rule 3 is about the language. The word Christmas has to be used in the movie in a, quote, serious way, not just thrown in as background noise.
2 out of 3. That's the system.
Yeah.
Seems simple enough.
It seems simple, but the moment you build a fence, someone starts looking for holes.
Yeah.
And Virus immediately starts poking.
And not just with modern movies. He goes right for the historical foundation of the holiday itself with what we're calling the nativity paradox.
The nativity paradox. I love it. What's the argument?
He questions the whole idea of a Christmas season in Rule 1, specifically the implied need for snow and cold weather, because the definitive Christmas story is the nativity.
And that's set in Bethlehem.
Exactly. Where, as he points out, the chances of a white, snowy, cozy December scene are pretty much zero.
So our entire Western aesthetic of Christmas, the snow, the fireplaces, all of it, is a cultural tradition, not a core part of the actual story.
Right. And he has this hilarious tangent about the classic nativity scene. Mary and Joseph are all bundled up, but the baby Jesus is, naked and freezing in the manger.
He jokes about Joseph being selfishly warm while the baby's out in the cold.
Yeah, he's like, somebody give him something, motherfucker. He's freezing out there.
It's sarcastic, but it makes a great point. If your rules depend on aesthetics like snow, you're not defining a Christmas movie, you're defining a Nordic Christmas movie.
So Rule 1 is already on shaky ground.
And then it gets worse when he applies it to an undeniable classic, Home Alone.
You can't argue that Home Alone isn't a Christmas movie. It's an institution. It is. But under Jake's strict 2 out of 3 rules, does it really pass? I mean, does it have a serious reference to Jesus or Santa that isn't just, part of the holiday background? The rules are suddenly either too restrictive because they might exclude Home Alone, or they're too loose.
The moment your objective system excludes a universally accepted example, the system is broken. You have to go back to the drawing board.
And that failure leads them to the most important distinction they make in the whole conversation.
The Incidental Christmas Problem.
Yep, and they use Harry Potter to explain it. This is the difference between presence and relevance.
Okay, break that down. Christmas is in every Harry Potter movie, right?
It is, because it covers a whole school year, so the holidays naturally happen. But Jake's argument is that it's completely incidental.
Meaning if you took Christmas out of the movie.
The plot would be exactly the same. They'd still have to fight Voldemort, they'd still have to find Horcruxes. You could replace the Christmas feast with a midwinter festival and nothing would change.
It's just a scene break, a moment for them to get sweaters from Mrs. Weasley. It doesn't drive the plot.
Exactly. Now, Virus tries to argue for the third movie, Prisoner of Azkaban, because it was directed by a Mexican director and has a Latino Christmas vibe and lots of snow.
But the core argument still stands. If the story works just as well at Easter, it's not a Christmas movie.
And this is where the initial rules really start to crumble. Because if all you need is a superficial mention or some decorations, you open the floodgate.
And that's when Virus unleashes his ultimate weapon to destroy the criteria.
He brings out First Blood.
Rambo. You're kidding?
He's dead serious. He introduces First Blood as the test case designed to completely shatter the 23 rule.
So how does Rambo possibly qualify?
Well, under those initial flawed rules, it actually does.
No way.
Think about it. Does it take place during the Christmas season? Yes. You can see decorations all over the town and in the police station.
Okay, so that's rule 1.
Is Santa mentioned? Yes. So that's rule 2. It meets the 2 out of 3 criteria. Technically, under Jake's first system, First Blood is a Christmas movie.
That is just brilliantly absurd. I mean, no one is gathering the family around the fire to watch a traumatized Vietnam vet take on a corrupt police force as their holiday classic.
Of course not. And Jake immediately objects, saying, nothing is Christmassy about it. The themes are PTSD and trauma, not goodwill to all men.
But according to his own rules.
According to his own rules, it passes. So Virus, to really drive the point home, pushes the logic to its most extreme conclusion. He introduces the porn analogy.
The what?
The porn analogy. He jokes that, look, if all you need is a festive backdrop and a mention of Santa, you can make a pornographic film. Put a Santa suit on someone, have a Christmas tree in the background.
And as long as they say the word Christmas, it would technically meet the 23 criteria.
It's a vulgar point, but it's rhetorically brilliant. It proves that the initial rules are completely useless because they lack any requirement for relevance or integration.
The Christmas element has to be integral. It can't just be wallpaper. The story has to need it to be Christmas.
Exactly, and that realization forces them to scrap the whole system and start over, which is what we'll get into right after this.
Hey, so let's talk about that amazing idea you've got. The one that's always in the back of your mind? Well, it absolutely deserves to be heard. Today, we're going to look at a network that's built to do just that, to amplify your voice and make that idea a reality.
Seriously, think about it for a second. What's that one thing you're passionate about?
That one story that only you can tell. We all have that topic we could just talk about for hours on end, right? But there's a catch. That's the big question, isn't it? It's the hurdle that stops so many fantastic ideas cold. The how of it all can feel, well, super overwhelming and honestly a little intimidating. So what if you had a partner to help you get over that hurdle? Well, let's meet Arete Media. It's a podcast network, and its whole mission is to help creators like you launch and grow their shows. Think of them as your partner in crime, helping with the tough stuff so you can just focus on being creative. Now, anyone can say they'll help, right? But the real proof is in the community they've built. And you've got shows that dive into pop culture and revisit those childhood scares, like the Goosebumps crew, sitting right alongside shows that give you these sharp business insights, like Startup Cores with Salt, Arizona. And the list just keeps going. There are shows about self-improvement, deep dives into the magic of Broadway, even really academic explorations of classical music. It just goes to show you there's a space for every single kind of creator. It shows that no topic is too niche or, frankly, too bold. And this isn't just some static library of old shows. It's a living, breathing community. It's not just about making content, it's about celebrating it. For instance, they even host the annual Artie Awards to recognize the best shows on the network. And just to show you how active it is, here's the latest episode from the Average Intelligence podcast, which just dropped. Seeing this really drives home that the network is constantly platforming its creators and their brand new work. So after seeing all of this, the question is pretty simple. You've got the idea. You've seen that there's a community waiting. Are you ready to take that step and finally share your voice? And here's how you do it. The whole path from idea to launch is laid out for you right there. It's not just about podcasts. It's about the stories and the knowledge and the passion inside all of us. So, what's yours?
Welcome back. Before the break, Jake's initial system for defining a Christmas movie had been completely dismantled.
Yeah, the Rambo problem and the porn analogy proved that a simple checklist wasn't enough. It needed to account for necessity.
So this is workshop session 2. This is where he rolls out the refined final criteria. He's learned his lesson.
He has. And this new set of rules incorporates that crucial idea of the plot needing the holiday.
So let's hear them. The final criteria.
Okay, so Rule A and Rule B are still there, mostly for completeness. Rule A is the setting. It takes place on or in the Christmas season.
Got it.
Rule B is the title. The word Christmas is in the title. But the big one, the one that changes everything, is Rule C.
The tiebreaker.
Exactly. Rule C is plot necessity. Santa, Jesus, or the Christmas season must be an integral part of the story or plot.
Integral. That's a key word. So the story has to depend on it. If you remove Christmas, the whole narrative falls apart.
Precisely. It's the difference between a movie that happens to be set in December and a movie that must be set in December for the story to work.
Okay, this is a much more elegant solution. So now let's reapply it to the original problem, Die Hard.
And with Rule C, it now passes with flying colors. Jake finally concedes Virus's point.
What was the argument that finally convinced him?
That Hans Gruber's plan is entirely dependent on the holiday. He's targeting the Nakatomi Corporation's Christmas party, specifically because it's Christmas.
Right. So you have reduced staff, minimal security.
All the key executives are gathered in one place, making them easy targets. And in Die Hard 2, it's an airport on Christmas Eve during a snowstorm. The weather, the holiday travel chaos.
Yeah.
It's all necessary for the terrorist plan.
It's not incidental. The plot mechanics require it.
Yes. So it meets Rule A for setting and the all-important Rule C for plot necessity. So under this much better framework, Die Hard is officially a Christmas movie.
And this new rule also gives us some clear disqualifications, right? Like Iron Man 3.
Perfect example. It happens during Christmas, there are decorations, there's snow. It meets Rule A, but the timing is completely coincidental. Tony Stark's battle with his PTSD and the villain's plot, that could have happened on Labor Day. Nothing about the core story would change.
So it fails Rule C. It's not a Christmas movie.
Exactly. And let's bring it back to Rambo. This is the ultimate proof that the new system works.
So under the new rules, First Blood is out.
It's out. It's set during Christmas, yes. But is the holiday integral to John Rambo's psychological breakdown or his fight with the town? Absolutely not.
That conflict could have happened any day of the year.
Any day. The plot doesn't need Christmas. It just happens to take place then. So it fails Rule C. Disqualified.
You know, it's fascinating that they spent all this time building this complex, objective framework only for Virus to reveal his own ultimate criterion.
Which is?
I say so.
At the end of the day, that's what it comes down to for so many people, isn't it? It highlights that core conflict perfectly. You have the intellectual desire for structure and rules on one side.
And on the other, you have the raw, subjective power of tradition. The simple fact that this is the movie we watch every year, therefore it is a Christmas movie.
And tradition usually wins.
So to see how their new shiny framework holds up against that tradition, they turn to an external authority.
They pull up the Rotten Tomatoes list of the best Christmas movies to see if their criteria align with the critical consensus.
Now, we have to add the caveat that Jake immediately expresses some healthy skepticism about Rotten Tomatoes scores.
As one should. He brings up The Last Jedi, which has a 91% fresh score from critics, as an example of how critical consensus can sometimes be wildly out of step with what audiences feel.
A very fair point. But for this exercise, the list is a good benchmark of what is culturally accepted. So let's look at the top of the list.
Number 1 is Meet Me in St. Louis from 1944, a classic. 100% from critics. It's also where we get the song Have Yourself a Merry Little Christmas.
And does it pass the test?
Oh, absolutely. The whole Christmas segment is crucial to the family's emotional journey and their decision about whether to move. It's integral.
Okay, what else is at the top?
Number 3 is a more recent one that Virus was incredibly excited about. The Holdovers from 2023.
I've heard amazing things about that film.
He calls it a piece of art, and it's a perfect modern example of Rule C in action. The whole story only happens because it's Christmas. The characters are stranded together at a boarding school over the holiday break.
If it wasn't for that specific holiday forcing them together, the story couldn't exist.
Exactly. The holiday isolation is the engine of the entire plot. It passes with flying colors.
But the list also presents some challenges to their new rules, right? There's some contentious picks on there.
For sure. And this is where we see if Jake will stick to his guns. At number 17 on the list is Little Women.
Ooh, that's a tough one. It's a beloved classic.
It is, but Jake rejects it firmly, and he's consistent with his earlier argument about Harry Potter.
Because the narrative spans a much longer period of time.
Exactly. It covers years in the lives of the March sisters. Christmas is an important recurring event, a marker of time, but it's not the reason the core plot unfolds. The romance, the tragedies, those things aren't dependent on the holiday.
He argues Little Women is as much a Christmas movie as Harry Potter is a Christmas movie.
Yep. He holds the line, presence isn't enough, plot dependency is everything. The system remains intact.
And what about the film that started it all? Where does Die Hard land on the critics' list?
Number 11, which is, pretty nice validation of their whole process. The critical consensus has shifted over the years and now generally accepts it. It supports their conclusion that Rule C is the key.
They also run through some of the obvious ones that pass easily, right?
Right. Yeah, the slam dunks. Miracle on 34th Street Santa is the plot. The Santa Claus, Tim Allen becoming Santa is the plot. The Netflix film Klaus, all easy passes.
What about It's a Wonderful Life?
That's an interesting one. Jake argues that it's basically a modern reimagining of A Christmas Carol. And since A Christmas Carol is maybe the definitive Christmas narrative about redemption during the holiday season,
he gives It's a Wonderful Life that same integral status because the themes are so deeply tied to the spirit of Christmas.
Right. So after all that intellectual work, the discussion shifts and it gets a lot more personal and honestly pretty funny.
The personal vetoes, this is where all their objective rules just go right out the window.
Completely. We find out that Jake, who has spent all this time crafting criteria for holiday movies, has never seen Gremlins.
What? The entire premise is a Christmas gift that goes horribly wrong. It's a perfect candidate for Rule C.
I know. It's a massive blind spot. But then Virus counters with his own, which is maybe even more shocking. He has never seen The Grinch. Any of them. Not the cartoon, not the Jim Carrey version. None.
Why? Does he just hate the story?
No, it's a psychological block. He said he hated people constantly telling him you have to watch it, it's a classic. So much that he developed this deep aversion to it just to resist the trend.
That is the most contrarian, stubborn reason I have ever heard. I kind of respect it.
Me too. He does offer a trade, though. He'll watch The Grinch if Jake watches Gremlins. A cinematic peace treaty.
Fair enough. They also touch on a few others. Daddy's Home 2 is a Christmas movie. The first one is not. Jingle All the Way, Elf.
Yeah.
Those are obvious passes.
Right. And from there, the conversation moves into a really interesting structural critique of romantic comedies, specifically comparing The Holiday and Love, Actually.
Jake has a problem with movies that have a ton of intersecting plots, doesn't he?
Yeah, he generally finds them distracting. The only exception he makes is for the movie Crash, which is a very serious, heavy film. For him, the structure needs to serve a deep thematic purpose.
So what about the holiday? The one where they swap houses?
They kind of debate that one. It's set during Christmas, and that's why they have the time off to travel, but could the story have happened during a summer vacation?
Probably. So it's borderline on Rule C. The plot isn't strictly dependent on Christmas.
Right. But then they get to Love Actually. Virus loves it, but Jake immediately starts raising what he calls red flags.
And this isn't about the Christmas criteria anymore, is it? This is a moral critique.
Exactly. He argues that some of the characters are just really problematic. His main example is Andy Lincoln's character relentlessly pursuing a married woman.
With the cue cards.
With the cue cards.
Yep.
So the question shifts from, is it a Christmas movie, to can we call it a classic if its message is ethically murky?
It's a totally different kind of analysis, which then leads them into a discussion about how modern movies are structured, and specifically the influence of huge movie stars.
This was a fascinating tangent. They get into the production mechanics of Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and his company, $7.
They touch on his new movie, Red One, which they confirm is a Christmas movie, but Jake says it was just okay.
And he has a theory as to why. He suggests that the Rock's contract, which his own company produces, essentially requires him to have something like 70 or 80% of the screen time.
So the narrative has to constantly bend to keep the focus on him.
Exactly. Even if the story would be better served by focusing on other characters or the ensemble, the narrative structure is warped by the economic reality of the star's contract.
And his big example of this is Moana.
Yeah, he argues that the original movie is secretly more about Maui, the Rock's character, than it is about Moana herself. And that in the upcoming sequel, the plot involves Maui getting captured, which finally forces the story to center on her.
It's a really interesting way to look at why some blockbusters feel a bit unbalanced. The structures are serving the star, not necessarily the story.
And from analyzing Hollywood structure, the conversation pivots one last time into the world of high-quality animation.
To The War of the Rohirrim, the new animated movie set in Tolkien's universe.
A film that Virus just absolutely raves about. He says it's fantastic. And the key thing here, connecting it back, is its structural fidelity. It is incredibly faithful to the source material.
So they get into the animation style, which was a little controversial. A mix of 2D, 3D, and rotoscoping.
Right, which is tracing over live-action footage. Some critics find it a bit weird, but he said it didn't detract from the experience at all because the story itself was so strong.
And the story honors Tolkien's lore. It's expanding on history that was already there, not just making stuff up.
That's a huge deal for fans. But more importantly, they defend the main character, Hera, from the Mary Sue critique.
The idea that she's an unrealistically powerful female character.
Yeah, and they shut that down completely. They argue her victory isn't about brute strength. She wins by fighting smarter. She's strategic, using knowledge she's had since she was a child. It's a victory of intelligence, which is earned character development.
It sounds like they were really impressed.
So impressed that they compare it to what many consider the pinnacle of animation.
Which is,
the legendary 1988 anime, Akira.
wow, that is high praise.
Virus puts War of the Rohirrim at number 2 on his personal list of best animated films ever, right behind Akira. He says Akira's animation was 20 years ahead of its time, but even more than that, its themes. Cloning, AI, societal collapse.
It was incredibly prescient. It basically predicted the anxieties of the 21st century.
And that's a kind of structural success that's about more than just plot. It's about capturing something essential about the world.
So we've gone on this huge journey. From a simple 3-point checklist for what makes a Christmas movie,
to realizing that plot necessity, that Rule C, is the only real objective measure we have. The story has to need the holiday.
but even that doesn't fully capture why we love these movies, does it? Which brings us to one last thought for you to consider.
We have the structural criteria down, but what about the emotional criteria?
Think about watching an old movie, maybe one you didn't even like that much before, but watching it with someone you love. Maybe someone from a different background who has a totally different connection to it.
Your own life situation has changed. You're happier, maybe more mature. And suddenly you see that film through a completely new lens.
And a film you once dismissed might gain this profound new meaning, not because its plot structure changed, but because you changed.
The context of who you're with and who you are in that moment can completely transform the experience. And that's a value that no objective rule could ever measure.
At the end of the day, maybe the definitive Christmas movie isn't the one that passes the test. It's just the one you share.
We hope you enjoyed this episode. Let us know in the comments what your favorite Christmas movie is. And please give us the gift of a like, share, and subscribe. And don't forget to vote for the Artie Awards. We'll see you next time.